In tonight's WECT Investigates report, it's the only one of its kind in the state, a halfway house in our area for sex offenders just released from prison.
The state pays the ex-cons room and board while they transition back into society. But WECT's Ann McAdams says neighbors in Wilmington didn't even know it existed.
It's an ordinary house from the outside, but inside there are 8 beds for sex offenders. The surrounding neighborhood here is full of children, but parents we spoke to knew nothing about it.
I'm very upset. I have a 9-year-old who plays in the neighborhood, and I wasn't aware of any of this.
It's the same story we heard from every person we asked in this neighborhood off Kidder Street in Wilmington. While most people are not thrilled for any ex-con to be moving in next door, finding out there's an entire house of sex offenders nearby causes even greater alarm.
These guys.
It's a concern shared by New Hanover County's district attorney, who was disturbed to learn the state was sending hard-to-place sex offenders from other parts of the state to Wilmington, and only Wilmington, upon their release from prison.
What I'm concerned about is that after they spend a couple of months in this transitional situation, if they don't have a job and they don't have a place to really stay, they're suddenly in a homeless situation that's very hard to monitor.
It's not easy to find a job or housing if you're a registered sex offender. So the All Family Recovery House helps sex offenders find jobs, social support, and purpose so they don't reoffend. The halfway house manager declined to go on camera, but spent over an hour explaining to us that in the 9 years in operation here, they haven't had any problems. The only thing that's changed? They recently went under contract with the state to provide this service for sex offenders just released from prison.
These folks have to go someplace. There's not going to be some deserted island that we can just ship them all to. And so it is important for us to set them up for success. They have paid their debt to society according to the law.
She's typically speaking out on behalf of sex crime victims, but Amy Feith of Wilmington's Carousel Center says we can't just ignore the offenders. Studies show meaningful rehabilitation reduces recidivism. But Feith and David are both troubled that Wilmington Sex Offender Halfway House is the only one of its kind in the state.
We acknowledge that it's a complicated problem. We simply don't want to be the only place in the state for these ex-offenders to be shipped to.
Funding halfway housing for sex offenders is a pilot program for the state as they try to keep them from becoming homeless and extremely difficult to monitor. There used to be 2 state-funded housing programs, ours and another in Charlotte. But recent media coverage in Charlotte prompted such public outcry there that its facility was shut down. It's not surprising that a house full of sex offenders concerns the neighbors, but Feith says there are hundreds of other registered sex offenders living in neighborhoods all around us.
If we are vilifying them and not giving them a meaningful way to manage and reintegrate and be successful, then they are constantly going to be a drain on the community, and they're constantly going to be living under the bridge or have a substance use habit or continue to reoffend because they don't have any meaningful support to be able to do anything else.
One of the district attorney's biggest concerns was that sex offenders from other parts of the state were being sent to Wilmington upon their release and would make this city their home. In many cases, that is happening. Reporting in Wilmington, Ann McAdams, WECT News.
Now, since this arrangement began with the state, 27 sex offenders who committed sex crimes in other parts of North Carolina were sent to the Wilmington halfway house after they got out of prison.
12 moved elsewhere after transitioning out of the halfway house, but 15 others now call Wilmington home, and 3 of them are homeless. David said that statistically speaking, some of these offenders are likely to reoffend, and he doesn't want local residents to become their next victims.